Welcome to Cultivating Courage, a podcast exploring fear, courage, and stepping into a life filled with purpose, connection, and love. This is the week, you guys. We're chatting with Robert Conlin and Shona Moeller from We Meet Again Coaching about getting clear on the experience you want to create through relationship and getting whole and complete and responsible for past hurts and triggers. It's juicy, so stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of Cultivating Courage. We are glad you're here. I'm Kristin Robinson, your host. I am joined by your other fabulous host, Matt Maxwell.
Hi, I'm Matt.
What are you up to today? How are you feeling?
I'm great. I just got back from a 2.5-week trip where I was in New York and then Colorado and then LA and then came back. And I'm supposed to fly to Spain on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But I haven't really decided if I'm doing it.
Maybe yes, maybe no.
Yeah, we'll see. It would be for like a month. I don't know if I'm going or not.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening in my world. We're joined by Robert Conlin and Shona, how do you say your last name?
Moeller.
Moeller, okay.
Yeah, use your mics.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, use your mics. And I'm like super excited to have these guys here because for various reasons. One is they're both professional coaches. They're also an awesome husband-wife team. They kind of do their own coaching, but they coach together and they coach specifically around relationships and love.
Yeah, which is super awesome and so needed.
Bob was Robert.
Whatever works.
Okay, I'm trying. Shit, I already messed this up. Start over.
I messed it up.
This is going horribly.
Created it all. There's no right.
Okay, Robert was my first coach, and one of the huge people in my own professional and personal journeys. So I'm really thrilled to have you guys here.
Thanks.
What do you want people to know about you?
Oh my gosh. How do we slim this down to just a second?
Lay it on them.
We're part of We Meet Again Coaching, which is one of the joys of our career so far. We get to coach singles and couples on anything from like how their personal journey in the relationship or in dating to how they communicate together, their intimacy, and everything in between. And we also have our own coaching practices. I personally coach women who are really interested in empowerment and relationships. And I also lead a female empowerment group at a school.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What ages?
High school.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's my word of the day. Just get used
Awesome.
to it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. So I've been a coach for going on 4 years, and part of that journey was my own personal development transformation, and like the man that I had to kind of become to be able to make the difference I wanted to make for other people. It took a lot of introspection, a lot of inner work, and going places that I had previously been unwilling to go. And through that process, it was very clear I wanted to find this relationship that was really my dream relationship, like meeting the woman of my dreams, creating a partnership that actually honored and called forth the man that I am and wanted to become. And Shona is obviously that woman when she came, and it was such a cool opportunity, and I'm so grateful for like the experience that as I was going through my coach training and finishing it, she saw something in herself to become a coach as well. So when she went and got trained and then finished her training, it was just a natural evolution for us to bring our work together with each other. And so we launched our official coaching practice in January of this year, and I don't know about you, but it has required us to even take on more work for ourselves, because now we're husband and wife. Now we're business owners. We're partners. We're
it's a different kind of relationship.
Co-creators.
All kinds of opportunities for breakdowns and breakthroughs.
Yeah.
totally.
All kinds of opportunities.
So but in all of it, it's required us to come closer and to learn more about ourselves individually in the relationship, and then more about how we interact with each other in a relationship. And in my experience, been such a gift for us and has helped how we get to show up in our lives, not only as our people, but like as coaches and as coaches to couples and singles in our business.
Yeah. I'm sure it's changed how you coach individually, like outside of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We get to, it's like a leveling up while also carrying our hearts with us.
Yeah.
Which just brings such a different and unique dynamic.
What do you mean leveling up?
Like diving into the things that the issues that you need to take on yourself in order to create the depth that like our souls especially are really craving. So when I say leveling up, it's like it's actually diving deep and creating the full spectrum of the relationship that we want.
Yeah, I think like one thing, like to give a good example of this, like one thing that happened when we first started out, we were trying to figure out our relationship as we were coaching people, right? So Shona had shared that like she was kind of scared to coach with me because I'm a little more trained. She holds my coaching at a different level than she holds her own, and blah, blah, blah. And I noticed like during our session, she was a little quiet, and I was like curious about that. Like, you know, and she's like, oh, I'm actually intimidated to coach alongside of you, which is like a totally unique experience because as her husband and as for my wife, like none of that exists. Like we are true partners. And then, so it like required us to kind of take a look at that. Right. And like the whole time I'm like amazed at what I'm learning from her and her process and what she sees, you know, and, it's just been something cool to like notice what gets triggered in our coaching relationship as we coach other people, and then what's the level of responsibility we have to get to kind of take care of it so we can go make the impact that we want to make.
Yeah, and we also see that in our relationship too. Not necessarily that specifically like I'm not scared to be his partner, but there are times in relationship where like you may be the person who is holding back with something or is struggling, and working together in that way in order it's just like it's shifted so many different areas of our personal relationship just from sitting side by side coaching other couples.
Yeah, I totally see that. It's like or what I'm imagining when I'm coaching, I'm there to have a conversation about my client and my client's life, and that's what we're talking about. And so I'm not trying to get stuff out of it, but inevitably for me in my life, something comes up in the conversation where I'm like, oh yeah, keep that one. You know, there's always something from a conversation where I'm like, thank you, universe, I get it. You know, I needed that.
Nice little reflection.
Something comes from my client that's like brilliant for me, even though that's not what I'm there for. Anyways, I find that being a coach and being in those conversations does just bring me a lot of insight and awareness.
Yeah.
And I'm just imagining like coaching as a couple.
Yeah.
That like not only would you have that for you, but as a couple, the things you would get from doing that kind of work together would be
totally
really
it's you sharing that totally reminded me of a time when you and I were coaching. We were in a session and we were talking, I'm sure, about relationships where we were, and the way you were sharing something totally triggered an old harm from an old relationship I had, and I started crying during our session. I was like, hey man, Matt, hang on, I just need a minute. And I took a minute, composed myself, and it was interesting because like in that moment our relationship switched for a second. Matt coached me and I just was kind of in my space, which is just so incredible, like because our relationship could allow that space. You know, not every coaching client relationship would allow that, and it was just clear. I was like, whoa, there's some incompletions that came up for me. And I was in a relationship with Shona. Everything was fine and great, but like something got triggered, and it's like, ooh, I've got a little more work to do to kind of process through some old emotion that I'm holding on to. So like it's the same thing with Shona and I. Like we'll be coaching, and then, you know, something triggers this little boy response in me from something that happened when I was like 5 years old. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, what is going on? You know, and I'll like when we're coaching together, we have a Post-it note that we'll pass back and forth with like, hey, ask her this or ask them this, or hey, I'm like totally taken out right now.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is.
You're like, your turn.
Yeah. Yeah. I need
Or
a minute.
like, if there's a tool that we need to use or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing thing to be practicing together.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. Okay, so in the relationship world, basically, I think if you're human,
Which we all
which
are,
at
right?
Hopefully
half of our listeners are.
I would be delighted if some of you
Dogs
weren't.
love us too.
Aliens are welcome here.
Shout out to the intergalactic folks.
That's right.
Maybe the
Dogs and
mice and
aliens love us.
dolphins are listening in.
yeah. We're getting all ninth dimension over here.
But for humans, you're probably either in some kind of romantic relationship or you want to be. Maybe there's some people that like truly aren't and don't want to be, so maybe that's another category. But I would say like they probably just haven't realized they want to be.
Or they're healing from.
Yeah, they could be healing.
yeah.
There's different places people could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I imagine most of us are either wanting a relationship or in one. And so, and you coach people in both of those general areas, right?
Yep.
So, so I think it would be cool to look at, in this episode, more in depth, kind of, for people that are generally looking for a relationship and don't have it yet. What are the things getting in their way, and how do they? And I'm saying like they, but really I mean we, because that's my current situation. What do we need to get out of our way so that we get to experience the kind of relationships we really want?
Yeah. It's
Did you have
Yeah,
something?
I have to. I
Oh,
want to
sure.
add just a little piece because I feel like there's two stages too, right? Like, and I'm curious about both. So, like, actually, like beginning dating, like going on the dates and finding the people, but then also like being in kind of the beginning stages of okay, like we're exclusive and we're dating, but we're still figuring each other out, and there's no like.
There's
This
different
is where
like
it's
stages
headed.
of
Yeah.
commitment.
Yeah.
So it's like one stage is like I'm not dating anybody,
Right.
even though
Trying
I
to
kind of
find-
want something. Another stage is like I'm putting myself out there, maybe like not exclusive, meeting people, but
Yeah.
another is like
I
dating.
found a person or a couple of people I want to get to know better.
And then there's like different stages of commitment to
Yeah,
like
yeah.
lifelong partnership
Yeah.
or whatever stage you might arrive at.
Yeah.
it can get as complex as we want it to make it.
Yes.
That's for sure. Yeah.
So
But I think-
starting with the person, let's start like early on in that journey. Maybe? Is that what
Yeah.
you're thinking?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's a few things that we've found with our singles clients.
Yeah. Do you want me to take it?
Oh, I
Okay.
can start.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
One of the things that we're noticing is that a lot of people actually are not clear on what kind of relationship they want. I'm not just talking about like what does the person want to look like or what they what they're doing with their life, how much money they have, but actually really getting clear on the experience that they want to create, the feelings that go along with that, and the like ultimate vision of what they want. That is one of the foundational things that we see when we're just starting out with a singles client. Another one is like when a person goes into dating, they're actually bringing in past relationships with them. We're actually coming in contact with a lot of people who kind of have a person in mind that they're still connected to.
Yep.
Energetically and in their mind, and they get to decide if they want to sever that relationship or move forward with it, or however they want to experience that relationship. But a lot of times there needs to be a severing so that a person can move forward. And then there's also the like bringing past relationships into what you want to create in the future. Do you want to expand on that, or is there anything else that you see?
Yeah, I can. So I think you mentioned, but really starting from a clean, fresh place.
Yeah.
Right. If you are looking for love or going to create love or relationship, you're going to get your heart broke.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Even if the relationship is the relationship for the rest of your life, your heart will still get broke at some point when that person moves on or when you move on, right? And that heartbreak we can hold it a number of ways. One, as trauma or harm and bring it as a wound into each relationship, or we can actually learn from it and have it actually be a form of information to us to help us heal in a very specific way, like heal our internal judgments or interpretations or beliefs that were created from the ending of that relationship. So my heart got broke by this relationship ending. I'm having all these kinds of feelings. I'm saying all this stuff about me and about them. That's all really good information for where my healing journey is. And I think we both feel very strongly that every relationship we have is a reflection of the relationship that we have with ourselves.
Yeah.
So, what do you mean by that?
So if I'm coming into a relationship and I have a lot of judgments, assertions, assessments about who I am as a person, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable enough, if only this were happening, then I'd be able to experience life this way, right? Very externally driven kind of life, going for accomplishments and accolades versus like really taking on the internal development work and really truly learning how to love and care for yourself. So you're not coming into a relationship with needs and all that trauma and pain from the past. So coming in whole and complete, responsible for your triggers, responsible for your past, and bringing it into a relationship, like I said, complete, whole, ready to create what's next.
And we're not going to be whole all the time. It's more of a there's like little blemishes that you get to work on. Like when we first started our relationship, I had totally shifted what I wanted and how I wanted to be in the world, even without him, which allowed me to be myself in a relationship, which had never happened in the past. I was never able to, I always felt like the other person was going to overtake me because I didn't see myself as owning my own life. So that's kind of an example of what we mean by like whole, is that really owning who you are coming into the relationship.
Yeah, and all those like
owning your heart.
Yeah, all those like corny sayings, like they're true. Like learn to love yourself before you can love someone else. There's a lot of truth to that, but a lot of us don't actually know what that means. What does it mean to love myself in such a way that I can actually make a difference for my experience of life and the difference that I want to have in my relationships? You know, like do your work and they'll come. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
You're like, but what work?
Yeah. Like taking on like really the internal self-development, exploration, like finding out and learning to love all of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it.
Okay, so I love that. And what about the person who's like, yeah, I'm not to that place yet, and they always put that ahead of actually being in a relationship? Like how do you balance?
I'm still working on myself.
I still have so much work to do
before
I'd be ready for that, and that's always the thing. Then
so funny. That's exactly what I was going to ask. Yes.
Like how do you balance the like? I want to do my own work and love myself and feel whole and complete, and I also don't want to put that in the way of relationship.
Yeah, it's that's like what one of the benefits of working with a coach is they can reflect that back to you. That may be true, right? Like, I think I need to do some more whatever kind of work before I can go on, or it could be complete bullshit. And it's just the thing that you have putting in front of you, and
because you're scared, and the only way to do it is to
or that level of intimacy and vulnerability is terrifying, which it can be. But can you do it scared? Can you be scared and go through it and go create the experience you want? Because waiting for something to be better than it is before you actually go out and create it, you're going to always be waiting. And especially from that scared place, you're going to always find something to put in the way of you, and that level of vulnerability is going to take to find that relationship.
And ultimately, that just comes down to protecting.
Yep.
Like walls, protection, whatever you need to create that cushion around your heart. Sometimes that cushion needs to be thrown out the window and just soar on through.
Yeah.
But how?
Yeah. Well, it's yeah. I mean, you have to be willing. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's who is it? It's the author of Eat, Pray, Love. I think I can't remember her name.
Elizabeth Gilbert.
Yeah, she has that saying like transformation starts once you get sick of your own bullshit, which is like true, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want something different in your life, you got to be willing to do something different to get it, right? Yeah. And we tend to not like those types of things. Like to do something different and new is typically outside of
it's uncomfortable.
What we know, it's outside of our comfort zone. So we resist it, or we find ways and excuses to not actually, or talk ourselves out of the thing that we actually want.
Yeah.
So you got to be willing. Like this is gonna happen, no matter what. You know, like be willing, and like that kind of goes in a little bit to commitment too. Like what's gonna pull me through when I do get scared, or when I get taken out, or when I find all the evidence why I should stop or quit, or why loving this person is dangerous, or why I'm still too broken to find what I want to find.
Yeah, it's like, I think basically what's in anyone's way is what happened. It's something about their past.
Yeah, a lot of times.
Maybe it's their parent, maybe it might be like prior relationships, or it might be what they saw in other relationships that affected them, or something. Maybe it's that one person that they just can't let go of, the hurt or the whatever.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I went on 150 to 200 first dates before I found him.
150.
And what time frame?
From starting at
weeks.
24 to 38.
I was like,
So,
in like a year.
I know, right?
Or
Starting at roughly 24. I was I was a late bloomer, but through the disempowering moments where I'm like, I can't take this anymore. I would rather sit on my couch and watch a movie with some wine, to holy cow, being single is super freeing and lovely.
Yeah.
And really empowering. I still had that commitment to what I wanted to create.
Yeah.
And that vision was what really ultimately created this.
Yeah. Well, Matt,
on
what
my
do you always say? You say something about how creating not necessarily about relationships, but just in general, like what vision, like create a vision that's so powerful that it pulls you towards it.
Yeah, compelling.
And
I like the word compelling.
Yeah.
It's like something that's so compelling to you that you're like, it pulls you towards it.
Yeah.
You don't, I mean, there's still going to be resistance,
I don't
but
know
it's
if
like
it's like
that
that,
is so
but-
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like such a clearly compelling vision that I'll just keep working towards it no matter what occurs, because it's compelling me. It sounds like some version of that existed.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And look at this dude.
I know. He's so handsome and
compelled
rugged and
towards that.
sweet
Yeah. And powerful.
and powerful.
Okay, so I've got the past. Let's go to severing that person who we can't seem to get out of our heart, the hurt or the missing or whatever is there, where there's still that emotional connection.
Yeah.
And we want to connect with other people,
Yeah.
but that person's so present for us that it's
Yeah.
like we can't be with other people the way we want to be.
Yeah.
What does a person do to get that
Out of the space.
connection broken?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Or let go of, or whatever
Right.
it is.
so. In coaching, we talk a lot about like if this current situation, whatever it is, whatever we're talking about, continues to go on 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, is there a cost to your experience of life? Right? Like imagine being in the same relationship that doesn't serve you, that you feel dead inside of, that's not meeting any of your emotional, physical, spiritual needs. Another year of that, what's it going to do for your quality of life, right? And when people
get them present to like,
Yeah.
if this continues,
present
here's
to the
impact.
present to the cost. And
Yeah,
then
that impact. Absolutely.
the other thing I say, which seems to have a lot of, where we say that it seems to have a lot of power, is like there's going to be a consequence to whatever you choose. So the consequence to staying in the relationship we've just outlined, right? Another year of, being in something like this that doesn't serve you. Or the consequence of coming home and saying, hey, we need to have a serious conversation. I think our relationship's over. There's a consequence to that, right? On the other side of that is heartbreak, loneliness, despair, all of that stuff. But out of those two opportunities, which one gives you access to something new and different? Right. It's likely the one that has the unknown possibility, right? The one that has a cost, but maybe a lesser cost. Can I be lonely, upset for a few months while I heal myself and find the next relationship? Or do I want to stay in this relationship and reinvent it in some way? Either one has a consequence, and what's the consequence that's going to get you closer to the thing you actually want versus away from it?
Yeah. And there's also an aspect of, if a person is holding on to another person and that other person isn't giving back, which is typically what happens.
Right.
We find that it's likely because our client or whoever we're working with has this overpowering thought that they're not going to be able to find anybody else. And which is energetically playing so much into like what they want to create in the future. And so giving themselves forgiveness for staying so long, or having that person like in the back of their mind, or texting every once in a while, booty calls, whatever it is, giving themselves forgiveness, and then starting to clear the plate of them. And we have a bunch of tools that we work people through in order to like clear the table so we can set a new spectacular Thanksgiving dinner with all the fixins.
Can you give us just like a flavor of what kind of maybe a tool that you would work with somebody so they can actually clear the plate,
There's
the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, what's the stuff that's actually in the space? What's the stuff that's actually on the table?
we actually look at the ingredients that are on the table.
Yeah, so giving them permission to be the most unelevated, victimized, wounded animal that they can possibly be, and just our suggestions I actually create as a writing exercise, and actually get out all of the hurt, the harm, the fear, the complaint, all of it, and just get it out, so you can actually start to heal and start to get some of that stuff out of you. Yeah, because just in there like festering and making yourself right and the other person wrong, or like whatever.
Yeah, and a lot of times people don't like to give that part of themselves a voice. They resist it, they try to push it down, when it's going to keep coming back. It's going to keep coming back. So when you actually allow that space for forgiveness, for being mad at yourself, being angry, whatever it is that you need to get out, it really creates a space to move on forward and leave that stuff behind, leave that person, leave those things.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think for me, it's like I'm currently and have been in places where it's like there's a part of me that's like loving and caring and gentle and kind, and and another part of me that's like freaking ferociously outraged and hurt and hating them and resenting them and kind of wants them to be miserable forever, and right, and it's like that's not okay for me to feel or think that. So the like loving part of me is like hurt by those thoughts,
right,
and it's like that's not okay, let's not go there or something, right? So I keep it suppressed, even though whether it's good or bad or right or wrong, it is there. That anger and that resentment and that, whatever. And so so it sounds like part of the opportunity is actually just like, without judgment, let's let that part actually have its say.
Yes.
And get out what it needs to get out and feel whatever it needs to feel. And there's a way in which I can watch that
Yeah.
Right? I don't have to be that person who's thinking and saying all those things. I can just allow that part of me that's there to express it in a way that'll let it out and then not be held in anymore.
Yeah, and what you're doing is you're allowing compassion for that part of you, which is some of the hardest work. Loving those parts that you don't necessarily want to associate yourself with. Mm-hmm. Debbie Ford's book of
Dark
Side of the Light Chasers is just amazing for that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing it offers too is it allows you to then have the awareness to choose what it's actually serving, right? Like that dark, angry, upset part of you, it's serving something, right? The loving, caring, nurturing, empathetic version of yourself, that's serving something as well. And having awareness and voices to both those parts of you actually allows you to then choose the version that is going to serve the thing that you actually want, right? Mm-hmm. If you go around like angry and resentful all the time, you're going to likely attract angry and resentful people and never have that experience of relationship that you want. So if you can notice, get responsible for, give voice to it, and still understand, is this serving what I actually want? And most likely the answer is going to be no. But you've given it a voice, you've taken some power away from it. Then you can actually go.
Now you have a choice.
Then you have a choice to go create what you want. It's like when and one of the other like sayings that are unfortunately true is like, what we resist will persist. And it's true. Like the more we try to fight the dark side of us, the more it's going to come up and impact our daily lives and relationships.
Yeah. I'm thinking of this. I was at the, have we ever talked about me being at the monastery?
On the podcast? I feel like maybe in one of the early
I'll talk about it
episodes.
sometime, but I've spent a bunch of time at this Buddhist monastery. And every once in a while we'd have kind of these question answer sessions with one of the guide facilitators, and somebody had asked something about, how do I get over this person? You know, what do I do so I can get over them? And the guide was just like, oh, you don't. Whether or not that's true, the point of it was trying to get over them is actually keeping you stuck.
Yep.
And it was almost like if you would let go of the need to get over them, whatever would happen would happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the truth or not, but for me it really hit deeply that it's like, it's the resistance. It's like, gosh, I gotta let go and I gotta fix this, and it's that was in
because
part
there's something to be
stuck
fixed,
there.
which makes you wrong.
And as soon as I was like, oh, maybe I won't get over this person, it was like, oh, well, what would I do then? I guess I'd just learn to be okay with it, and and connect with other people. Like it stopped as soon as it was like, oh, maybe actually surrendering to this and stopping resisting it and having to fix it would have it be okay, and maybe that person's still going to be there, but there's not the struggle around them.
Yeah, I think it. I use this, and now I'm writing a book about relationships, TBD on the release date. But
do you want to tell people what it's called?
It's called "Why Your Relationships Suck." Guide to creating strong relationships with courage and heart.
He started writing it while he was coaching me.
Yeah, this is the impetus. Yeah,
I know. I was like, Matt.
He's got lots of stories. Where'd they all come from?
It's a fairly triggering title, and it's so perfect.
Yeah. But I talk about the concept of heartbreak, right? And our heartbreak heals. And things like holding on to the heartbreak actually don't allow it to heal. But our heart has been broken. If we allow it to heal, any things that heal, there's typically scar or there's some type of mark left behind. We think of our skin, right? All the times that we've been cut, or I see little scars all over my hands just from living my life. That has healed, but it's left information for me. It's left things for me to notice and be aware of, right? And it's kind of the same thing like an emotional or relationship heartbreak. Like I can choose to be right about how much I've been harmed or hurt, which doesn't actually allow me to heal. If I actually allow and accept what has happened, it will heal, but it's still going to be a part of me. It's still going to impact all of my future relationships. Whether I have to work on my trust issues, or I have to work on how I show up in my power in relationships. Like there's always going to be something that has informed the way I hold and carry my relationships in my life by the ones that I've had.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How about we put a pause in it for this week? That was awesome, man. That was rich. If we had to create a practice for listeners to take on from the conversation, what would we give them?
I think probably something around looking at what you might be holding on to and resisting the release of. And looking at it from a place of like non-judgment and just acceptance and whatever you need to create for yourself to be okay in that space.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like looking at the scar on his hands. It's just a scar.
Yeah.
It just is a past relationship.
Yeah. The other thing I would add is like notice where you might need or where you're holding the space to be right about how hurt you are, and take a look there on what that righteousness essentially is giving you, whether it's protecting you or giving you fuel to harm the person that hurt you. Take a look if you need to be right about how wronged you've been.
Yeah. And if you're willing to exchange being right for joy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. All right, guys. That concludes this episode of the Cultivating Courage podcast. Stay tuned for more with these guys. Thanks for coming.
See you next week.
Hey, guys. Thanks for listening. I'm Matt Maxwell. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or other social media, or learn about coaching with me at thisishearthstone.com. And please check out my book, How to Hold a Cockroach, now available through Amazon. You can connect with Kristin on Instagram at Robinson Kristin, that's Kristin, or find her upcoming workshops at thrivecoachingstudio.com. Please subscribe to us wherever you listen and leave a great review.
Don't forget our practice for the week. Notice where you're being right about how hurt you've been, and consider the impact that holding on to that hurt has on you and what you might get by letting it go.
We'd love to hear how it goes in the comments section wherever you listen, or leave us a note at cultivatingcouragepodcast.com.